The night was heavy with smoke and noise. In the heart of the alien marketplace, torches burned and shadows danced on the walls. The smell of roasted meat, old metal, and wet dust mixed in the air. Traders shouted, haggled, and cursed in different tongues. But tonight, something different was about to happen. At the edge of the crowd, an alien mother stood holding her little child. Her skin was pale, her eyes dim with hunger, and her clothes were torn like rags. The child whimpered softly, his belly empty for days. She pressed him close to her chest and whispered, "Don't cry, my little one. I will find food for you." I promised, but she had no food. No credits, no work. She had nothing left to give, except herself. Her heart shook as she looked at the auction stage. She had heard stories of women who were sold there, stories filled with chains, bruises, and cruelty. But when her son coughed weakly, she knew the truth. If she did nothing, he would die before the next sunrise. Slowly, with trembling steps, she walked toward the platform. The guards grabbed her arms roughly and pushed her forward. The crowd turned. Their laughter rose. "Look at this one," one alien shouted. "Skinny, weak, not worth a coin." "Maybe good for work in the mines," another said. The mother kept her head down. Her cheeks burned with shame. She wanted to disappear, but she held her son tightly. He was the reason she had chosen this path. The auctioneer, a thick-scaled creature with yellow eyes, raised his hand. "Tonight we sell one more." A mother, desperate enough to sell herself. "Who will start the bid?" The crowd jeered. Some threw stones at her feet. Just then, the noise in the square faded. The air grew tense. A figure stepped into the torchlight. It was a human, the aliens whispered among themselves. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and when they came with power. Tall, broad-shouldered, and carrying himself like a soldier, the man walked straight toward the platform. His coat was dark, his boots heavy, and his face unreadable. "Why is he here?" someone muttered. "Humans only buy fighters, not slaves like her," the mother shivered. She had heard humans were dangerous, cold, calculating, and merciless in battle. She clutched her child tighter and prayed he would not look at her. But he did. The human's eyes met hers. For a moment she felt naked, as if he could see all her pain, all her fear. She looked away quickly, ashamed. The auctioneer cleared his throat. Well, a human in our market. "Do you wish to bid, sir?" The man said nothing. Instead, he pulled out a pouch of credits and placed it heavily on the table. The sound echoed like thunder. The crowd gasped. It was more money than anyone had expected. The auctioneer's eyes widened. "Sold to the human." The crowd broke into laughter again, but this time it was sharp, cruel. "What does he want with her?" Someone sneered. "Humans are strange. Maybe he wants a servant. Or maybe he's going to use her for his own needs." The mother's knees almost gave way. She could not believe what had happened. She was sold. Her son clung to her neck, too young to understand. The human stepped forward. He did not smile. He did not gloat. Instead, he reached out his hand, not to strike her, not to drag her, but to take the child from her arms gently. For a heartbeat, the mother froze. She thought he might hurt her son, but instead he shifted the boy carefully against his shoulder, as if protecting him from the cold night air. Then, with his other hand, he offered her bread. The marketplace fell silent. This was not what they expected. This was not what she expected. The alien mother stared at the food, her throat burning. She had sold herself to feed her child, but now in the hands of this strange human. Her story had taken a turn she could not understand. And somewhere deep inside her heart, fear began to twist into something else, something even more dangerous: hope. The alien mother did not sleep that night. She sat in the corner of the small shelter the human had taken her to. Her child lay on a blanket, finally full, his tiny stomach rising and falling with each breath. The bread the human gave him had been soft, warm, and real. She had not seen such food in months, but her own heart refused to rest. She stared at the human sitting by the fire. His back was straight, his coat still on, and his face hidden in the glow of the flames. He had not chained her. He had not ordered her to serve. He had simply told her, "Rest, you are safe tonight." Safe? She could not believe that. No one was safe after being sold. In her world, men who bought women had only one reason. She knew this truth too well. Her hands trembled as she thought of it. She kept her son close, ready to run if needed. The fire cracked. Sparks danced into the air. The human broke the silence at last. "You don't trust me." His voice was low, calm, but it startled her. She hugged her boy tighter. "Why should I?" she whispered. He turned his head slightly. His eyes caught the light of the flames. Hard eyes, but not cruel. "Because if I wanted to harm you, I already would have." The words cut into her like a blade. They were true. He had every chance, and yet he had done nothing. Still, she shook her head. Humans are monsters. That is what we were taught. You conquer, you take, you destroy." The man gave a short laugh, but it was not happy. "Your people are not wrong. Humans can be monsters." He looked at the fire for a long time before he added, "But not all of us choose to be." The mother frowned. She did not understand. Why buy her then? Why pay so much for her if not for ownership? The human seemed to sense her doubt. Slowly, he stood and walked to the doorway. The cold night wind rushed in as he opened it. Beyond the camp, the marketplace was dark and silent. The torches had burned out. "You can leave," he said simply. Her heart stopped. She stared at him, confused. "Leave?" "Yes," he said. "Take your child. Walk out that door. No chains hold you here." For a moment, her whole body screamed at her to run. Freedom! The word thundered in her chest. She could take her boy and vanish into the alleys, far from humans and slavers. But she did not move. Her legs felt heavy as stone. Why was he letting her go? No buyer ever gave freedom back. This made no sense. Why? She finally asked, her voice shaking. "Why buy me only to let me go?" The human leaned against the doorframe. His shoulders seemed tired, as if carrying a burden too heavy. "Because when I saw you, I remembered someone." His voice softened, almost a whisper. "Someone I could not save." The mother's throat tightened. She wanted to ask more, but fear kept her silent. "Decide," he said, turning away from her. "If you want to run, go now. If you want to stay, then eat and rest. Tomorrow will not be easy." The door creaked as he left it open behind him. Her child stirred in his sleep. She looked down at his tiny face, peaceful for the first time in weeks. The thought of running pressed hard against her chest. But so did the memory of bread in her hands, the warmth of the fire, and the way the human had carried her boy as if he mattered. She stood up slowly, carrying her son in her arms. Her feet touched the dirt floor near the door. The cold wind brushed her skin. Beyond it lay darkness, hunger, and danger. Behind her was firelight, safety, and a mystery she could not yet solve. Her heart raced. She had been sold to a stranger. But what kind of man offered freedom instead of chains? The night whispered no answers, and so, trembling, she closed the door. The fire burned low, painting long shadows on the walls of the small shelter. The alien mother sat with her child in her lap, her mind twisting in circles. She had closed the door. She had chosen to stay. But why? Her eyes moved to the human. He had returned from outside, his coat carrying the smell of night air. He laid a bundle on the ground and unwrapped it. Inside were more pieces of bread and dried meat. Without a word, he placed them near her. The child stirred awake, his eyes wide at the sight of food. The mother hesitated, torn between fear and hunger. Slowly, she broke the bread and gave it to her son. He ate greedily, crumbs falling on his blanket. The human watched in silence. His face was still unreadable, but there was no cruelty in his gaze. Finally, she whispered, "Why are you doing this?" He did not answer at once. Instead, he leaned back against the wall and stared into the dying fire. "Because I remember what hunger looks like." Her breath caught. She had expected many answers. Ownership, duty, even mockery, but not this. "Your people don't starve," she said, her voice sharp with doubt. The man turned his eyes to her, dark and heavy. "Not anymore, but once." "I did," the mother froze. The image of a human child, hungry and weak, was something she had never imagined. The stories she heard painted humans as conquerors, warriors who crushed worlds under their boots. Could such a man have once been as desperate as her? He stood suddenly, walked to his pack, and pulled something out. A small object, black and cold, lay in his hand. It was a locket worn with scratches. He opened it. For a brief moment, the firelight caught an image inside. A woman and a child, both human. Their smiles were faint, faded by time. The man's jaw tightened. He snapped the locket shut and slipped it back. "They are gone, and I cannot bring them back." The alien mother felt her chest tighten. She wanted to ask what happened, but his silence warned her not to. Instead, she said softly, "So you bought me because I remind you of them?" He shook his head. "No, I bought you because no one else would. And because no child should starve while the universe is full of fat merchants counting credits." His words struck her like a blade of truth. She lowered her gaze. Shame burned her cheeks. Shame not for herself, but for the world that made her sell her own body just to feed her boy. The human crouched near the fire. His voice was steady now, but quieter, as though meant only for her ears. "I am not your master. I am not your savior either. I am just a man who refuses to look away." Her hands trembled. This was madness. In her world, no one acted without reason. Kindness always hit a price. But here was a human who gave bread, offered freedom, and spoke of pain as if he carried his own chains. Her son finished the bread and looked at the man with sleepy eyes. For the first time in weeks, the boy did not cry himself to sleep. He curled beside the fire, warm and full, and drifted into dreams. The mother's heart ached. She watched her child, then looked at the human. "If you are not my master, what am I now?" The man looked at her for a long moment, his eyes dark as storm clouds. Then he said quietly, "Alive. That's enough for now." The flames flickered and silence settled between them. But it was not the silence of fear anymore. It was the silence of questions yet unanswered. Still, she could not shake the unease inside her. If he was not her master and not her savior, then what did he truly want? The night stretched long, filled with shadows, secrets, and a fragile spark of something she dared not name. Hope. Dawn broke over the marketplace ruins, painting the sky in shades of gray and pale blue. The alien mother woke to the sound of boots crunching on gravel. Her heart jumped, but when she turned, it was only the human. He carried a small sack of supplies, his face unreadable as always. Her son stretched, rubbing his eyes, smiling faintly at the sight of food left near the fire. The mother, however, felt no comfort. She had stayed through the night, but questions twisted inside her like knives. Why would a human spend so much on her only to feed and protect? Nothing about it made sense. The human tossed her a water skin. "Drink, we move soon," she froze. "Move where?" He adjusted his pack. "Away from this place. Too many eyes. Too many ears. If they know I bought you, they will come asking questions." Her stomach turned. She knew the whispers already spreading in the market. Human buying a starving alien mother? It was a story that would grow like fire in dry grass. As they walked, the narrow alleys echoed with voices. "Did you hear? The human bought her. He must want to experiment on her." "No, humans don't waste credits unless it's for war." Something is wrong here. Each word stabbed her with doubt. Fear grew heavier in her chest. She hugged her child closer, wondering if she had made a mistake by staying. By midday, they reached the edge of the city. The air was clearer, the noise of the market fading. They rested beneath the ruins of an old watchtower. The human gave bread again, but she ate little. Finally, she whispered, "I should run." He didn't even flinch. "Then run." Her eyes widened. "You wouldn't stop me?" "No," he said simply. "But you won't get far. Out there, the desert doesn't forgive weakness. Bandits wait for women and children. The city behind us will spit you back out. If you run, you will die before the next dawn." His words were not threats. They were truths. Harsh truths, but truths all the same. Still, her pride burned. Better to die free than live in chains. The man turned his head slowly, meeting her eyes. "Do you see chains on you?" The silence that followed cut deeper than any whip. She had no answer. Her child tugged at her sleeve then, pointing toward the man. "Mamas, he's not bad." Her chest ached. Out of the mouths of children came the simplest truths. But still, she could not trust so easily. That night, they camped under the stars. The boy slept quickly, but the mother stayed awake. She could not forget the whispers from the market. What if the human's kindness was a mask? What if he was waiting for the right moment to reveal his true intentions? The human sat across the fire, sharpening a blade with calm hands. The sound scraped through the silence. Finally, without looking up, he said, "You are planning escape again." Her breath caught. How could he know? "I've seen that look before," he continued. "On refugees, on slaves, on soldiers who hate their commanders. You think of running every hour." She swallowed hard. "And if I do?" He set the blade down. His voice dropped low. "Then I will still not stop you. But if you run, You take your child into a world that wants to eat him alive. You will not protect him alone. The fire popped. For a moment his eyes softened, shadows flickering across his face. I know because I once thought I could protect mine. The words froze her heart. He spoke of his lost family again, but this time, she heard the pain that lived under his calm voice. She did not reply. She could not. Her son stirred in his sleep, curling closer to the warmth. The mother pressed him to her chest and stared at the flames. Maybe the human was lying. Maybe he was dangerous. Maybe tomorrow would reveal the truth. But tonight, her child slept safe, warm, and fed. That was more than the universe had given her in a long, long time. And though fear still clawed at her heart, a small voice whispered deep inside her, "Stay one more night." The desert stretched endless under the twin suns. Heat shimmered on the horizon, and every step sank into dry sand. The alien mother carried her boy on her back, sweat running down her skin. The human walked ahead, steady as stone, his eyes always scanning the dunes. By midday, the wind shifted. The human slowed. His hand moved to the blade at his side. What is it? The mother whispered, fear curling in her chest. Trouble, he answered, his voice sharp. She followed his gaze. At first, she saw nothing, only sand and rock. But then, like ghosts rising from the dunes, shapes began to appear. 5 figures dressed in rags, their eyes hidden behind cloth. Bandits. Her breath caught. She had heard stories of what they did to women and children. The bandits spread out, surrounding them like wolves. Their leader, a tall alien with rusted armor, grinned. Well, well. A mother, a child, and a human carrying supplies. Lucky day for us, the mother's legs shook. She held her son close, her heart racing. This was the end, but the human did not flinch. His voice was calm, almost cold. Leave now. You don't want this fight. The bandits laughed, their voices harsh. One spat on the ground. A lone human against 5? You'll be bones in the sand. The leader raised his weapon. Hand over the woman and the child. Maybe then we'll let you walk away. The words stabbed the mother like knives. She turned to the human, terror filling her eyes. Was this the moment he would give her up? After all, she had no chains. She was nothing but a burden. But the man stepped forward, blocking her with his body. His voice cut through the air. You'll touch neither of them. The bandits' laughter turned into snarls. Weapons gleamed under the sun. The first bandit rushed. The human moved like lightning, striking with his blade. Sand flew as the attacker fell, blood staining the ground. The others roared and charged. The desert exploded with sound. Shouts, steel, and the clash of bodies. The mother stumbled back, clutching her son, shielding him with her arms. Her heart pounded as she watched the human fight. His movements were sharp, controlled, every strike purposeful. 2 more bandits fell, groaning in the sand. But the leader was stronger, his blade heavy, his strikes brutal. The human blocked, his arms straining, sweat dripping down his face. For a moment, the mother thought he might fall. No, she cried, her voice breaking. The human's eyes flicked toward her, and in that instant he found strength. With a roar, he drove his blade forward. The leader staggered, then collapsed into the sand. The last bandit fled, vanishing into the dunes. Silence fell, broken only by the harsh sound of breathing. The human stood over the fallen, his chest rising and falling. Blood dripped from his arm where a blade had cut him, but he ignored it. Slowly, he turned back to her. Are you hurt? He asked. The mother shook her head, tears in her eyes. Her son clung to her neck, sobbing softly. The human crouched, meeting the child's eyes. His voice softened. You're safe. No one will touch you while I live. The boy buried his face against his mother, but his tiny voice whispered, He's our shield, Mama. Her throat closed. The human was bleeding, exhausted, yet he had stood against 5 to protect them. She had expected chains. She had expected cruelty. But what she saw was something else entirely. That night they made camp under the stars. The human cleaned his wounds quietly, refusing help. The mother sat close, her child asleep in her lap. For the first time, she did not feel fear watching him. She felt something more dangerous, something that made her heart tremble. Trust. The desert was quiet, but the human did not rest easy. Every sound, the hiss of wind, the crack of shifting sand, kept his hand near his weapon. The alien mother saw this and wondered if he had ever truly slept without fear. Her son slept soundly against her chest. The boy trusted the human now. Too easily, she thought. Children gave trust like flowers to the sun. But adults, they knew better, and yet as the stars burned above, she felt her walls cracking. The next morning, they set out early. The suns rose higher, heat biting at their skin. By noon, they spotted black smoke curling in the distance. The human's eyes narrowed. "Not good," he muttered. They crept closer until they saw it, wagons in the sand, surrounded by armored riders. The banners they carried were marked with jagged chains. Slavers. The mother's blood ran cold. She knew those banners. She had seen them in her village once before it was burned. Slavers didn't just take bodies, they took souls, crushing hope until nothing was left. The human crouched low, scanning the camp. He counted 30 men, too many for even him. "We go around," he said. But before they could move, a cry rang out. A child's cry. The mother's heart twisted. She turned and saw a cage near the wagons. Inside, small hands gripped the bars. Children, 3 of them huddled together, their faces streaked with dirt and tears. Her breath caught. They're only children. The human's jaw clenched. His hand gripped the hilt of his blade. For a moment he looked ready to march into 30 slavers alone. "Don't," she whispered. "It's too many." He didn't move. His shoulders shook as if fighting a storm inside. Finally he stepped back, his voice low but sharp. "I can't save them." "Not now." The words tore at her, but she knew he was right. One man could not fight 30. Not and live. Still, the image of those children burned in her mind as they moved away. By nightfall, they found shelter among broken rocks. The boy slept quickly, but the mother could not. She turned to the human, her voice trembling. "Those children. How could you walk away?" His eyes were hard. "Because if I tried, we'd all be dead. You, your son, me. Sometimes survival is the only choice." She shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. "But you fought 5 bandits for us. Why not them?" The silence between them was sharp as glass. Finally he spoke, his voice raw. "Because I already failed once. I won't fail again." She frowned, confused. "Failed?" He looked away, shadows crossing his face. "My family, my wife, my daughter, they were taken by slavers years ago. I tried to fight. I wasn't enough. They're gone because of me." Her breath caught. She saw it then, not just a man, but a wound walking on 2 legs. Every act of kindness, every risk he took, it all came from that scar. Her anger softened. Slowly she touched his arm. He stiffened but did not pull away. "You couldn't save them," she whispered. "But today, you saved us." His eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw the pain behind his steel. The wind howled across the rocks. In the silence that followed, the mother realized something dangerous. This man was not her master, not her captor. He was something far more complicated. The next day they would face more dangers. She knew slavers would spread like poison across the desert. But as she watched the human stand guard over her sleeping boy, she felt a truth settling in her chest. He was no monster, and if she dared believe it, he might be their salvation. The desert night was heavy, the stars hidden behind storm clouds. The alien mother clutched her son tightly as the human stood at the edge of the rocks, scanning the darkness. His blade was in his hand, his shoulders tense. Then came the sound. Hooves pounding the sand, metal clanging, voices shouting. Slavers. They had tracked them. The mother's heart sank. She whispered, "They found us." The human turned, his face grim. "Stay behind me. Don't run. If they take you, you'll never escape." Before she could reply, shadows poured into the camp. 10 riders armed and snarling. Torches burned in their hands, fire painting their cruel smiles. The leader raised his chain whip and sneered. "There she is. The woman who sold herself, and the human fool who thinks he can keep her. Both belong to us now." The mother froze. Her knees weakened. Was this her fate after all? Sold once more, dragged into cages, her son raised in chains. But the human stepped forward, blade gleaming in the firelight. His voice thundered like a storm. "You'll have to kill me first." The slavers laughed. Gladly, the fight exploded. Steel clashed, sparks flew. The human moved with fury, striking, blocking, cutting through the first riders. But they were many, and their weapons were sharp. Blood ran down his arm, his breath heavy. But still he fought, never giving ground. The mother held her son, tears streaming down her face. She saw the man she once feared, now bleeding to protect them. Something broke inside her, a wall built of fear and doubt. She could not stand back any longer. Grabbing a fallen spear, she shouted, "You will not take my child!" The slavers turned in surprise as she lunged. She struck one across the face, sending him crashing to the sand. Another reached for her, but she jabbed the spear into his leg, making him howl. Her son screamed, but his eyes burned with something new. Pride. The human, seeing her, let out a roar and cut down another slaver. Side by side, man and mother fought, backs to each other, protecting the boy between them. The battle was brutal. When the last slaver fell, silence returned, broken only by the crackle of dying torches and the sound of their ragged breathing. The mother dropped the spear, her hands trembling. The human staggered, bleeding but still standing. She rushed to him, pressing her hand to his wound. "You're hurt," she whispered. He gave a faint smile, though his face was pale. "Better me than you. Better me than the boy." Her heart ached. She looked at him, really looked, and saw the truth. This man had carried grief like chains, yet still chose to protect strangers. He had bought her not to own her, but to save her. Tears blurred her vision. She whispered, "You could have left me. You could have left us. Why didn't you?" His voice was rough but steady. "Because no one should be alone in this universe. Not a mother. Not a child." His gaze softened. "And because, somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as a burden. I saw you as family." Her chest tightened. For so long she had been told she was nothing, unworthy, a woman to be bought and sold. But here in the firelit sand, a human, her former enemy, looked at her as something priceless. She pressed her forehead to his, her son clinging between them. "Then let me stay. Not because you bought me, not because I owe you, but because I choose to." The storm clouds above parted, revealing the stars again. For the first time in years, the alien mother felt the weight of chains lift, not from her wrists, but from her heart. That night, as they sat together under the endless sky, she understood. She had sold herself for survival, but what the human had given her was something no credits could buy: love.